Welcome back. It's finally happened. After many, will he, won't he, the world's richest man, Elon Musk, has gone shopping once again. Elon Musk has bought Twitter for $44 billion. Now, from the word go, Elon Musk is setting a new agenda. His first step was to fire the top leadership. Now, all these departures include Twitter's CEO, Parag Agrawal, we have Vijaya Gadde, the head of legal and policy, and you also have the chief financial officer who in fact had joined Twitter in 2017. With that, you also have Sean Edgett, who had been the general counsel with Twitter since 2012. In one of the biggest changes that we're now going to see on the microblogging platform, it is that shareholders will now be paid $54.20 per share, and more importantly, Twitter will now operate as a private company. The completion caps a convoluted saga that actually began in late January. When Elon Musk, the billionaire, he started a quiet accumulation of a major stake in the company. Even though the deal is now done, many feel that Musk's this open approach of free speech can actually be very dangerous to the platform. So first, let's break down the details in terms of what is this timeline, or will he, won't he, that we've seen by Elon Musk. As I said, it all began in late January. Elon Musk slowly started buying Twitter shares and increasing his stake. Then by the month of April, Elon Musk becomes the largest shareholder with 9.2% stake. Again in the month of April, Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal announces that Elon Musk will be joining the board. But here is when it actually started to get very interesting. On the 9th of April, you had Elon Musk rejecting Twitter's offer to join the board. A long statement was then put out by the CEO of Twitter, Parag Agrawal, saying that things have not been able to solidify between both the parties. On the 21st of April, Elon Musk reveals that he has secured $46.5 billion as far as funding is concerned. On the 10th of May, Elon Musk suggests a ban on ex-US President Donald Trump possibly could be lifted. On the 13th of May, Elon Musk puts the deal on hold after seeking detail of fake accounts. This is where the problems began between him and the top leadership, because he feels that there was wrong numbers of bots that were given to him by the top leadership, and possibly that's why we've seen them being fired on day one itself. On the 8th of July, Elon Musk drops the deal, cites misleading details on fake accounts, exactly as I was pointing out. On the 12th of July, Twitter gets ready to see Elon Musk for backing out of the deal. At that time, it was looking like this is going to be a long-drawn legal battle. On the 4th of October, Elon Musk revives the bid to avoid a legal battle. Many were saying that possibly the cost that came out of this legal battle was something that Elon Musk was just not ready to factor in. On the 28th of October, Elon Musk clears out Twitter bosses by completing this $44 billion deal. But now the big question is, now that the deal is done, what will this mean for the platform, and what will this mean for users like me and you? Let's break down some of those details. This is something that we've heard from him time and again, a free run for free speech. The free speech absolutists criticized Twitter downplaying certain posts. The return of Donald Trump. He's vowed to reverse the permanent ban on ex-US president after Capitol riots, and many others. Tackle bot accounts, something that he had said what he wants to change as far as the operability of the platform is concerned. Has promised to authenticate all humans on the platform. He's gone on to say that I'm here for humanity, not for the money. Cut costs and raise revenue. We've already seen the top leadership being fired on day one itself. Plans to cut 75% of the workforce. But look at the number that he's working with as far as annual revenue is concerned. $26.4 billion by 2028. The question is, how will he actually get to that figure? Will Twitter now actually become a paid platform? Let me also now bring in our colleague from CNN, Mark Stewart, now joining us live from New York. Mark, appreciate you joining us here on the broadcast. As I said, so many twists and turns. Did many actually see this deal coming through?
Good morning. It's really good to be with you. I think Elon Musk at the end of the day was put into a box. There were so many legal ramifications and so many financial implications if he were simply to walk away. So really, he made a business decision of his own to move forward on this purchase. Now, exactly how the platform will transform, still to be determined. As you mentioned, he made some leadership changes. He has been meeting with employees. So for the moment, he has signed onto this deal and is certainly acting like a new owner. We are expecting some details later today about staffing and perhaps more about the direction. But if you noticed yesterday, he did release a statement, a tweet to advertisers, as you mentioned, calling this almost like a town hall, and that it will be a place for free speech. But also made some overtures that it would be respectful. So he now owns this, and I think he also realizes that with that comes responsibility. I think he is certainly aware of the critics, and I think he needs to keep the advertisers happy, and that's why we saw that statement yesterday.
But Mark, anything that Elon Musk does has a very different tone to it. It's flamboyant. Look at the statement that he put out. I'm here for humanity, not for money. How should one see that statement?
Well, I think that he knows that there needs to be this balance between capitalism and then a respect for, let's just say, good behavior. I mean, as we have seen over the years, Twitter unfortunately has become this place where anyone can say anything, and at times very harmful and very hurtful comments are made, which is certainly detrimental to humanity. So he is going to have to reconcile those two principles. It's interesting, he has been leaning in a lot to Jack Dorsey, the former founder of Twitter. He's been asking for advice. This is not to say he's going to bring Dorsey on, but I think he certainly, as a business person, knows the value of talking to others, especially those with institutional knowledge. So perhaps that will be part of that balance you mentioned.
What I'm essentially trying to understand is, look at the first move or the first step that he's taken. He's fired the top leadership. How do you see this? Is it just cleaning house par for course, or do you see this as a big blunder in making?
Well, it's not unusual when
That's
there's
true.
new ownership of a company to bring in new blood, new players. That happens in professional sports all the time. Let's just talk about football. If there is a shift in management of a team, we see new coaches, often new players. So this really is no different. But if there is going to be a fundamental shift in the way that Twitter approaches these issues of free speech, if you will, that may be different than what the previous C-suite had seen, well, then Musk really may have no choice but to ask those people to leave and bring in people who may be able to facilitate his vision without any objection or roadblocks.
But what many are now wondering is, what will this now mean for people like me and you to use Twitter? Will it now become a paid platform? What are you hearing on those lines?
I mean, I think that Twitter is certainly, there is room for evolution. I mean, one thing that we have heard Musk talk about, in addition to being a place for conversations, almost being a global sounding board, if you will, I mean, I think he realizes that this is a valuable platform for other reasons as well. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a shift from Twitter to perhaps into things such as messaging and maybe even e-commerce. I mean, I think he talked about something calling Twitter X, making it a mega app. So, and what I mean by mega is that it would be an all-in-one app: entertainment, news, messaging, communications, perhaps even bill payment. I'm just throwing that out there to say that the expanse and the potential is very wide.
And as far as the paid, platform, that idea goes, you already have Twitter Blue, but it's only restricted in a few countries, so possibly that is being extended. But lastly, Mark, I also want to understand this deal going through. What has the impact been on Twitter and its shares?
Well, I think the one thing which is really interesting in all of this that may not be getting a lot of attention is that essentially a public let me say this again. I think the one thing that's happening that is not getting a lot of attention is that a public company is going to go private.
True.
So perhaps some of the accountabilities and checks that investors had in the past are going to be gone. But on the other hand, if you're Elon Musk, you don't have to worry about this accountability. You don't have to answer to shareholders. But, yesterday on the final day of trading, I believe, the stock, I think was pretty strong throughout the day.
Okay, Mark, we leave the conversation there. Appreciate you joining us on this broadcast. I believe we're also now getting some piece of breaking developments coming. We're now understanding the Government of India has amended the IT intermediary guidelines and digital media ethics rules. Amended rules make it now mandatory for intermediaries like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube and Instagram to comply with the Constitution of India provisions and India's sovereign laws as well. Let me bring in my colleague Maria Shakil as well. Maria, what does this mean for intermediaries?
Yes, so this is coming in the backdrop of the changes that have taken place at Twitter with Elon Musk taking charge of Twitter. And, he has advocated free speech, but free speech in the context that there should not be any kind of cartels that have functioned in the past operate. Now what the government has said is that they have issued certain clear cartel guidelines. They have said it clearly that the intermediary shall prominently publish on website, mobile-based application or both, as the case may be, the rules and regulations, privacy policy, and user agreement in English or any other language. And they have made it clear and compulsory for them to follow the rule of the land, particularly pornographic material which has to do with children, the child pornography, which is very, high as far as the content is concerned. The sense is that these infringe on, trademark, copyright and others, and hence impersonation and other aspects have to be taken into consideration. Security is the primary concern, is what the government says, and hence all these intermediaries, be it Facebook or Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, all of them have to follow the law of the land.
Okay, Maria, we leave the conversation there. Thanks a lot for getting us all those details. So the question that we're asking this evening is, after the takeover by Elon Musk, will this now be a free speech versus run for hate? Let me also now bring in our guest to take this conversation forward. We have the MD of Wedbush and tech analyst at Wall Street, Dan Ives. We also have cybersecurity expert Jiten Jain. Good to have both of you on the broadcast with us. Dan, let me begin the conversation with you. As I was discussing earlier as well, anything that Elon Musk does is flamboyant, it's big, it's different, it's there to make a mark. But one thing that I've been wondering all through the day, even at a time when we were having so many twists and turns, how come we didn't see a second bidder?
Oh, because 44 billion is probably overpaying by 20 billion for the platform. So there was no bidder within miles. I think this is going to go down as potentially one of the most overpriced M&A deals in tech in the last 30, 40 years, along with AOL, Time Warner. That's why. Remember, for Musk, richest person in the world, he could do this. But for him, the easy part was buying Twitter. The hard part's going to be fixing it.
Okay. Jiten, I want to understand, as I said, so many twists and turns. Did we actually think that we'll see a day like this? And do you think that this will have a long-term value?
Well, first up, from a value perspective.
Oh, I was asking Jiten, but Jiten?
Yes, of course. I think if Twitter is made available, with commercial features like, unlimited video streaming or longer video messages or, edit buttons or, paid verification to the corporates and political entities, especially the political parties who have been using Twitter for, all sort of purposes, right from fixing the election campaigns to public communications to the government seeking feedback on public policies. I think all these features of Twitter can be commercialized and they can be made paid, and which can bring in huge revenue for Elon. Now, important thing here is that, it may appear to be a little overpaid right now, but I think Elon Musk's strategy was to bid for 44, then make them negotiate and bring the price down to, maybe 38 or something. And he has done it with the past in every deal which is, which is company which has bought that he had brought down the prices during negotiations. But I think this time he was put into a box because of the litigation, and he realized that the amount he will be spending in the litigation next 1 year would not be bigger than the difference what he would if he negotiates the Twitter directly and the value he brings down. So I think he has paid that check of 44 billion, and I realize that if not maybe in 2 years, in 3 years, he will be able to break even the deal. provided the size of user base Twitter has. And the second thing, what he's saying that it will not just be a microblogging platform anymore.
Sure.
It will be a super app like what you have in WeChat in China, where you can make payments, you can do social networking, you can do messaging, you can do online shopping, e-commerce, transactions.
But that's the question, Jitain. Would users then want to use Twitter as that platform? Because there are many other alternatives. Will the authenticity of Twitter be lost? I'll come back to you in just a bit on that. Dan, what I essentially want to understand is, while Elon Musk very clearly has made a run as far as free speech is concerned, and he said, I want to change the game and make it an equal platform for all. But here's the worry as well. Doesn't this also become extremely dangerous as far as misinformation is concerned, especially as far as the narrative of political debates around the world are concerned?
I think that's part of the problem here, is that also for Musk, it becomes a lightning rod situation. And the more of a cesspool it becomes, you can't bring advertisers on. That's been the biggest problem with Twitter from a monetization perspective. And for Musk, he walks a tightrope, especially with Tesla in China and other ventures, SpaceX, and just in terms of where he is around the world. That's the worry for investors.
I also want to understand, Dan, another aspect from you as far as what the early challenges and what the early tests for Elon Musk could also look like. Many believe that the early test could actually come within days, when you will have Brazil electing its president and American voters go to the polls for as far as midterm elections is concerned. And the reason that I'm saying this is because Twitter has also already gone on to say that it will prohibit misleading claims about voting and the outcome of elections. But all of that was much before the deal went through.
Well, that's why the big question in the next few weeks, does he let Kanye on? Does he let Trump back on? These are going to be the questions, because it comes down to $44 billion is a lot to pay just for freedom of speech in a town hall. And especially going into the midterm elections, that's going to be front and center, because the more of a lightning rod it becomes, the less advertisers are going to be on there. And that's the worry, especially as the company goes through just massive hurricane-like headwinds.
Jitain, I want to understand another aspect from you, which is got everybody very, very curious that will Donald Trump make a comeback? We're already seeing a reaction from Donald Trump where he's going to say that Twitter now is in quote-unquote sane hands. Elon Musk has already gone on to say that he will revoke all these lifetime bans, but these bans were awarded for a reason. Is it going to be dangerous?
Is that question for me?
Jitain, for you.
The equity finance. And the last thing
Dan, I was just asking Jitain to respond to that. Jitain.
Yeah, I think he's going to reverse the ban, because the reason of firing Parag Agarwal and Vijaya Gade within minutes of taking over the Twitter is that he has lost absolute faith in their policies and the way they have been operating Twitter. Musk is an absolute believer of free speech. You take the example of Ukraine, where he's putting the bill of almost billions of dollars just to ensure that Ukraine stays online. He's willing to put the same money in Iran. So I think he's going to ensure that Trump comes back. A lot of accusations which have been there, falling on Twitter of left-wing bias, on left-wing extremism also has to be done away with. And he's going to make Twitter a safe space for political conversations without hatred and bullying. And I slightly disagree with Mark when he says that, advertisers are going to think twice, because I think if you look at it practically, advertisers will come wherever there are eyeballs. If Musk can bring in more eyeballs on Twitter without inciting hatred, I think advertisers
but Jitain, this is where it becomes problematic. You're saying advertisers will come wherever they see eyeballs, but advertisers actually might be wary of doing business also with Elon Musk, because remember, he denounced the use of advertising on the platform itself. He's also gone on to say the company should find a different source of revenue. So wouldn't that be a clash point as far as advertisers are concerned?
No, so this is he said in a context that he was accusing Twitter of lack of transparency in the algorithm of how the content is shown to the users, what tweets are shown, what advertisements are shown, what content is shown. So I think if you look at just last 4 years ago, Tesla was the first company which made the entire AI driving algorithm of cars public. So I think it may not be a surprise if Elon decides to make the entire Twitter algorithm of showing content public and open source. In that context, once he takes away the bots, once he makes the algorithm transparent, I think advertisers will have much more faith when they remove the bots, and they will be happy to pay much more money for the real human eyeballs they will get. than the fake ones they've been getting, because I think 30 to 40%, I agree with him, are bots. And there have been multiple studies from different reputed universities that 30 to 40% users on Twitter are either bots or are fake accounts, just run for political campaigns or hatred propaganda.
Dan, I want to understand another aspect from you. Sure. Dan, I want to understand another aspect from you. What does this mean for shareholders at large? Because Twitter is not the only acquisition that we've seen by Elon Musk, Tesla, and others as well. This back and forth, the kind of language that we see him use on the social media platform, what does it mean for optics of Elon Musk and for shareholders at large?
Well, that's been a big issue in terms of the whole situation's been a black eye for Musk in terms of just the way he's handled Twitter. That's been overhang on Tesla. And I think Musk, part of that cachet, now is really a focus in terms of making sure he ultimately gives the reins to social media experts to turn around Twitter, doesn't try to do it just himself, as he's balancing SpaceX as well as Tesla.
Jiten, I also want to understand the other aspect is that how do you make this a profitable model? Critics who have, slammed the past leadership of Twitter with the Parag Agrawals and others, they've said that they've completely forgotten what Twitter was essentially built for. It's not fun anymore. There is favoritism. But at the end of the day, is it making enough money as well? How can Elon Musk ensure that this becomes a profitable business?
It will, you look at WhatsApp, it was free. Has anybody ever thought how does WhatsApp makes money despite of being free? Of course they make money out of your data. Of course they make money out of your, data for targeted advertisements. They are now making money out of WhatsApp business accounts where they're offering WhatsApp paid services to banks, the ticketing services and all those things. So I think Twitter might also bring in certain paid features. I mean, if we are comfortable paying money on WhatsApp by using UPI, I think we can do the same on Twitter also. So he can bring in online shopping, which may be an acceptable experience. He can bring in a lot of donation campaigns on Twitter or fundraising campaigns on Twitter as a paid feature. He can start charging political parties based on the followings that if they want to use the Twitter account. And people like Donald Trump will be happy to pay that once they're back on Twitter. And so I think there is a lot of money which can be made, especially by the corporates and the political parties alone, because they form, I think, the 40 to 50% conversation on Twitter today, the political content. And the last bit, I think the news companies, electronic media companies, which have been running live, YouTube streams and Twitter streams for their content for publicity, they will be also happy to pay. So the time has come where traditional media, Twitter, social media, everybody will now have to share revenue. Nobody will have a monopoly. And last point I want to make, you see, there is nothing where he has put his money and he has failed. So it may take time, but this man will turn Twitter into a money-making machine. And mark my words, just wait for 2 years and Twitter will be profitable and making money for himself.
Quite optimistic there, Jiten. But Dan, I'm just a little curious, and this is a slight deviation from what we're discussing. But because of the kind of support that Elon Musk has taken from Jack Dorsey and others, is it a possibility that we could see Jack coming back?
No, I don't see that. I think Dorsey maybe could consult a bit, be sort of the whisper in Musk's ears, but I don't see him coming back. I think obviously he's doing a lot more charitable things. But I think he will be involved, and you do need some of that core DNA from Twitter in order to move this forward.
Okay. Unfortunately, I will have to leave that conversation there. So we'll have to see which way this goes. Day one itself, as I said, Elon Musk has set the agenda straight. He's fired the top leadership and he's working with a big annual figure as far as the revenue is concerned as well. Will we see the return of Donald Trump? Only time will tell. With that, it's a wrap from my side. Brass Tacks with Anusha is up next.